Hello, my name is Mike Davis-Marks and I'm the Managing Editor of theveteran.uk and also a Director of Veteran Force Resilience Kick. Welcome to The Veteran Voice, which as it suggests is talking to veterans about their experiences not just in the service, but how they transitioned out into Civvy Street and how they use their transferable skills to great effect, either in employment or helping rebuild communities. It promises to be a fantastic and fascinating listen. So let's roll on.
Hi everybody, welcome to the latest edition of The Veteran Voice. Today I've got with me Gary Hart. Gary is former One Para and also has worked with the Special Forces, particularly in Afghanistan. He had a number of tours of duty in, shall we say, pretty hot areas, and he then moved on and did various things after his transition, including running his own military fitness gym down in Littlehampton. And it was there in Littlehampton that he founded with his wife, Poppy, the Veterans Volunteer Service, which we're going to hear all about. And that's for doing good in the Armed Forces community and the wider community. Gary, welcome to the program today.
Thank you.
And absolutely delighted to have you with us. We've known each other about 2 years.
Yeah.
And, some of the work that you've been doing for Veterans Volunteer Services is absolutely mind-blowing. And I don't want to start there. I want to start really taking you back to your early story. I mean, how did going into the parachute regiment? I mean, what sort of childhood did you have?
A good one, actually. And I was lucky. I literally grew up right on the doorstep of the old parachute regiment training area in Aldershot.
Oh, right.
A little place called Uphale in between Farnham and Aldershot.
Yeah.
My father figure, although being my great uncle, was one of the founding Red Devils. So he knew the area well. We used to walk the dogs up there. He used to take me map reading. We used to sit on Caesar's camp and watch the planes go from Farnborough show and things like that, and was just inspired really for a life in the forces as a youngster.
Did you serve in the cadets?
I did for a brief while, yes. There was Para Cadets that was based in Aldershot on Redan Hill. Mm-hmm. I did go there for a small time. A sport kind of took over. Yeah. As luck would have it, I was a fast sprinter, so I was a district champion, and that kind of took over everything else. I was obsessed with running at that point in my life.
So when did you make the big decision then to go into the parachute regiment?
At sixth form college, I was achieved college education, and then obviously after that you have to make quite a serious decision whether you're going to carry on with your education or you're going to sort of go out into the big wide world. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go in the forces. So.
And so how did that start? Where did you report to?
I joined up from Aldershot recruiting office, and at the time where I joined, it had changed from all being the independent brigade at Aldershot. So the training then was in two places. Your phase one, I'm going to have to spice that because I can't. I'm trying to think where it was. And phase two was in Catterick.
Right.
I was at the Infantry Training Centre. So after you'd achieved your sort of phase one, which is a trained soldier for British Army, and then you go off to whatever your profession may be, the infantry go to Catterick, and that's where we went. Catterick split in half. You've got Meany Barracks on one side of the road with kind of an underpass, and on the other side you have Hellies, which is where the Paras and the Gurkhas train.
Right. So did you actually go into the army then with a view to becoming part of the parachute?
You get three options when you join, and you're to put your three options and wish your first one doesn't go in favour of yourself. And my three choices were parachute regiment, parachute regiment, parachute regiment.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That sounds.
I was
Sounds it sounds as though you were very interested in the parachute regiment.
yeah, I was. I was brought up with it. You've got to remember, I spent a lot of my childhood up the Queen's Avenue watching the Red Devils train jump.
Yeah.
The team used to come around the house for drinks and laughter and stuff on various times, and it was just part of the norm. Airborne Forces Day, etc. It was just where it was bound I was going to end up.
So how did your career then progress in the parachute regiment?
It was good. I was what they call a flyer, so I achieved sort of like first promotion quite fast. As I say, going back to childhood, I was sort of like brought up in kind of that mindset, so I adapted really well. Training, going through parachute regiment training isn't easy for anybody. They try to get you all in the same mindset, so in doing so you get absolutely sort of like hammered with fitness and kind of extra what might seem harsh discipline to the casual observer, but at the end of it they're trying to cut off any sort of stragglers and get down to the percentage that get through in the end, and that's not a great deal, but you're all similar. You're all similar in fitness, mindset, and sort of bearing as an individual, really.
How did your career progress from that point then?
It was good. It got very busy. So I joined in '99, and obviously when 9/11 happened, the world changed, and operations became, I suppose, from Northern Ireland, which obviously when the troubles were really on was a hefty operation. But so Banner, my first operation, and then obviously Iraq happened, and so the army seemed, when the forces in general seemed to then change and focus a lot more on adapting to the Middle East, which took quite a lot of adjustment because it wasn't quite ready for it with kit and equipment and kind of training, even down to medical training and stuff, was not quite in time with that field of operations. So I was there to witness all the change for that, and then particularly, moving on then into Afghanistan, which was really fierce. All those skill sets, as I say, about medical and stuff, had to adapt and had to upgrade to be able to cope with the operations given. Yeah.
Now, you were in one para, weren't you?
I was, yes.
And then you worked in other parts of the
yes
operations as well. Can you talk a little bit about those? Or?
I can, yeah. So in one para, 2005, 2006, the regiment, or the battalion rather, was not disbanded but redirected. And it was redirected under Director of Special Forces, so built on the success of Operation Barras in Sierra Leone, and I think Jacana, which was kind of around the time of the Battle of Tora Bora, 2001, Afghanistan and stuff. There were contingencies from one para with Tier 1 operators at the time on those missions, and support predominantly around one para mortars was kind of really a big, strong birth of what became the SFSG. So the new title, Special Forces Support Group, was given. I think a lot of people think of the word support where you're kind of on the fringes and kind of just clapping somebody on, but in actual fact, we're talking about support weapons and support groups around the capability of that. And you've got to remember, if you're looking at, say, for instance, a battalion, 70% of firepower comes from the support company, be it anti-tanks, mortars, machine guns, etc. And then when you break that down into a platoon, the same thing. Machine gun firepower, 70% of your firepower of a platoon. So in actual fact, that is what the SF support means. And as it's been developed over the past 20 years now, it's been accepted for the name now changed to Special Forces Strike Group. So they've earned the respect of everybody else, albeit it took 20 years and some great commanders, which I can't name, but the one who I'm on particularly was right down the backbone of its development from those early days into, sort of more recently. And they've ended up cracking that very hard nut, the respect of, like, I think particularly it comes from the ones that are hard to get that from a 2-2, but that's for obvious reasons. They're not just Tier 1 in the country and in the world.
What was it like serving down in Helmand?
Helmand it's brought more to my life than any other part of service, through trials and tribulation, and that's for sure. I think going from 2003 in Iraq, I think that was in part the easier time to be in Iraq. We had the whole coalition force rolling in and not a great equipped and developed Iraqi army. They kind of threw their arms up that quick. They dislocated their own shoulders was kind of the term going forward. And then it was kind of the insurgency that came in after that, where the more sophisticated development of their tactics with the IEDs and the EFPs and stuff, and snipers, which made it tricky. The actual invasion wasn't too bad. The worst part of that was Midja al-Qadir, with the infamous and very sadly where the 7 Royal Military Police Service people were executed, and one para right at the end of our tour reacted to that. And obviously there was some quite big medals won out of that. Jock Robbo got the Prime Minister's Gallantry Medal. Freddie Ellis, there's a book written about it, The Last Round, and so that was a kind of baptism of fire, but not what really prepared me for going when I went up to just for the Herrick 4 with 3 para and the 3 para battle group break into Helmand. That was proper war fighting.
And how many tours did you do in Helmand?
I'd done the one tour with 3 para.
Yeah.
Other tours are more sensitive that can't really talk about. But that particular tour with 3 para in Helmand, because I wasn't a known face of 3 para, I knew nobody. They had already deployed. I think they had been there 6 to 8 weeks before I arrived. And I arrived with a group of crows straight out of depot, and that's the parachute regiment word for a new person to battalion. And I was put straight to B Company, and I went out with B Company 5 Platoon, less than 24 hours, having arrived straight into a 14-hour firefight and a Kazav for an ambush in Sangin. So that was my moment of truth in soldiering and as a person, and what has kind of led to where I am, even sitting here today, through adjusting from that and what came after it as well.
What came after it for you personally?
So what came after it personally for me was Kajaki. Yeah. Kajaki happened on the 6th of September 2006. And Kajaki is a dam in Afghanistan, and there's a feature near several features which all lead down to a wadi. In that area, they had problems with kind of illegal vehicle checkpoints and stuff from Taliban control. Or I should imagine we're keeping eyes on it. Quite an interesting area for being able to hold some control in the region because of it being a dam and everything that was there. There were some CIA operatives there, a couple, so obviously it had great importance. And the multiple that were up there from 3 para had some mortars, some snipers, and some machine guns, and now a famous name, Corporal Mark Wright, was there, and unfortunately died on the 6th of September in 2006. The multiple had spotted a illegal checkpoint again, down at the bottom of the feature. Stu Hale, a sniper, had gone down basically to engage with the Taliban to get them to, if you like, fire back, so that then they could eliminate the threat of them being there. So kind of under rules of engagement, not shoot them, but shoot at them. So a controlled shot, so then you could take it a step further. But of course, in 1980, the Russians had been at war with the Afghanistanis, and how they used to deal with their kind of stand and fight tactics, if you like, was they would put their soldiers on a feature and then they would put mines around them so they couldn't get out the feature. So it was a bit like the last stand type thing. However, their war finished. Over time, weather had washed the mines down the feature into the wadi at the bottom, and they were all cluster mines. So when Stu got down the bottom to get eyes on, obviously walked into a live minefield that was on no maps or anything like that, and they had no idea of how many were there. Several years after the incident, they were managed to have a look at it, and there was a lot of cluster mines down there. In a way, surprising that there were actually survivors. Four of the guys got really bad injuries, missing limbs, below the knee, amputations, feet, stuff like this. And obviously, as the day developed, you had Stu Hale, Stu Pearson, Corporal Stu Pearson, Andy Barlow, and obviously Mark down on the minefield. And this was for hours before any air support could come in, with the complexity of what it was. Don't send a Chinook, don't send a Chinook was the mantra. And the Americans, there was massive contacts going on in Sangin, Lashkar, Musakala, everywhere was hotbed at the time. And so they were unable to get a Black Hawk down. And in the end, a Chinook was sent. And the Chinook, unfortunately, set off a second mine, which led to Mark Wright's fatal injuries. I was part of the IRT team. I tried to get onto the minefield myself with one other. We couldn't. We know they'd been waving us off on the back of the helicopter, the Chinook, as it landed. But strangely enough, Chinooks normally take off with the nose down, and they put the nose down and went backwards, which went over basically and set off the second mine. And we think, what set it off? Was it just a downdraft? Or was it a piece of rock being blown onto the mine? It wasn't Mark rolling on it. It was something that set it off, and that's what unfortunately caused it. So for me, myself, I've had a battle with post-traumatic stress through that incident. Everything else that I seem to do out there, and even afterwards, which we're going to in a second, other deployments I've done, this wasn't supposed to happen. And I couldn't put names to anybody. So I think it was such a kind of weird situation like that it I couldn't kind of, my brain couldn't function with it and put it into where it fits in training. And I guess that's what caused the post-traumatic stress. And obviously, even up to now, I'm involved with Op Courage, and I have built something around it so that I'm able to give back from that, because it's separated me from being able to do quite normal stuff.
So, obviously that was traumatic, all those experiences. And how much longer were you serving after all of that?
Yeah, so we got back, as I say, so this was September. In November, we returned to the UK, and we went on our pottle leave, our post-operational and entitlement leave. And because I was from One Para, I got sent back to One Para. They, at the time, how it worked to put numbers in and to be able to still for promotions and people to do other postings and outside courses. 2 and 3 Para predominantly had to send a handful of blokes down throughout the year to make up those numbers down in the 1st Battalion. You couldn't just join and go to One Para. You'd had to have done some service and done some bits and bobs. So back I went, and then I went to my company down there, and that company, a platoon of us were then due to go to Hereford to do some continuation training with them, and then pre-deployment training for a certain operation. And I deployed with a squadron from them for a 7-month tour in Iraq, which was predominantly to take down Al-Qaeda and all the terror sets in Iraq, Task Force Black.
When did you finally leave?
I left in 2008. After that last tour, We conducted, I think it was about 360 odd raids, a hell of a lot of IEDs, and just really intense at night, the type of operations that you would expect from special forces. And I felt I was burnt out after that point, so I left after those 2 really intense years.
So you come to transition.
Yes.
Must have been difficult.
Very difficult, it still is. The biggest thing in general, if you step through any door, given a number and a uniform and a badge from whatever service, loss of identity is hard enough.
Yeah.
An identity that still operates, if you find something difficult at volume 10, with hearing problems and kind of worried about walking past wheelie bins, and keep having to check your route and get on a plane, and it takes you days to plan your travel, and so it's just I'm still adjusting, but I found a way to do it through my more recent endeavours over the past sort of 3 years.
Which brings us very nicely to Veterans Volunteer Service,
Yes.
which is where we first got to know each other.
Yes.
When I rang you one evening and said, "Are you doing X, Y, and Z?" And you said, "We are." And I said, "Well, that fits very nicely with what we're trying to promote around the country."
Exactly, yes.
And that was the beginning of it. And
Yeah.
Just point out to listeners, watchers, that Veterans Volunteer Service is the number one, the first ever geographical exemplar for Veteran Force. So all the different things that you do are very much in keeping with what we wanted people to be doing and encouraging people to do and helping to fund them do it when we first got going. And it was a great eye-opener for me when I came across yourself and, of course, your wife, Poppy, who
Yes.
set up the VVS, set it up together, that you were actually doing all of these things, and that because we were wondering where we were going to get a veteran force from.
Yes, yeah, no, it's it.
And there you were.
Yeah, perfect timing, really. Obviously, yeah, so we'd settled. I'd have some support from a company, British Military Martial Arts, kind of when I was at a point where there was no way I was going to be working in hostile environments as doing CP anymore. Any of that sort of stuff just wasn't open to me at the time. And so I, with Poppy, we were working in our business, which was a martial arts training facility in Littlehampton in Sussex. And somebody we used to give private lessons to, basically, a local businessman. He was attacked in the high street by kind of like 12 young men, about 15, 16 years of age on average, knocked unconscious, bottles thrown at him, all the rest of it. And this was a testament, sign of the times of how the communities were starting to fall to bits, what with county lines and sort of lack of funding from councils to put stuff in place for some of these more children from more deprived areas, especially with sort of cash and social activities and stuff. This is where you'll find these problems. And he didn't approach the police or any community sort of managers. He came to us and he said, look, is there anything you think can be done about this? This is on the high street. It's, meters away from your premises and other businesses and stuff. People are getting scared to walk down the street. We didn't have a problem with it, the people visiting our place, but we did hear his call. So what we done was we approached the parents of the individuals, and we said, this is a bit, this is all brand new, in fact, but I'm going to get you to sign if you're up for this. But if you give us control of a Hearts and Minds campaign with your sons, then we promise to, we hope to promise to give you back a different individual, a change of character. They asked me what I mean. I said, we're going to base it on like training, like you do $10 Taliban. They're not hardcore members, but they're being influenced to what would be not the kind of behavioural characteristics, that promotes positivity. So we put that in place. 1 week we're doing fitness training with them and talking about food and nutrition, and you'd be surprised how much of people are angry and stuff if they're not feeding themselves right, and they're not, sort of well-being and stuff. And then secondly was like community responsibility. So we were teaching low-level first aid through other veterans that we got in that were friends of mine from your traditional sort of veteran clubs, like the breakfast clubs or the Legion stuff. And I said, we got more to give here. We've got a skill set that we're missing that we could employ to put into the community and bring out a better outcome for everybody around. There's lots of beneficiaries: the police, ambulance, parents, schools, colleges, PRUs, you name it. So that's what we did. And then we put them through scenarios at the end of it. We went to a place called Lodge Hill up in West Sussex there, and totally isolate them, put them in lodges. They'd learn about all the food, so they were eating well, family-style meals, and we'd have briefs and debriefs, beginning and end of the day, up early before the sun was up, sort of banging the old dustbin lids, get up, singing Christmas carol songs. What is it? It's in the middle of something, out you get. And then the PT, good sleep, good appetite, good way of forward thinking, and then change. So, the scenarios, I'll give you an example. One was we had a car, somebody had a cardiac arrest in the car. You can't drive because you're not old enough. However, you need to get that car to the road, which is about a quarter of a mile, if not just further, and you're going to have to push it as a team while you're using link men to run back to the main house, which again was another quarter of a mile away up a hill. And they were changing round and then keep relaying messages and keeping the car going while employing some of the first aid they'd learned as well. At the end of it, they felt like little superheroes, local superheroes really. And it completely changed. And I'm really proud to say that the efforts that Poppy and I and the VVS put in, none of them have been re-engaged with antisocial behaviour or on police files again. In fact, now that they're 18, they're kind of settled down, got jobs, got partners, and a completely different thing. If they do see members of the VVS, they still thank them and say, can you get a message to Gaz, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, which was really great. And from that, we went into the school, the academy, to do it, 10-week program with kids that were about to be excluded from that school into PRU or if not out of education completely. And the same thing, requal, questionnaire at the beginning, some around social bearing, local your social support and nutrition. A lot of them weren't even getting hot meals a week. So when we'd, by the end of it, doing the recall, 100% wanted to carry on working with the veterans. You've got to remember, there's no drill, there's no uniform, and there's no weapons in here. That's a different thing, and there is add-ons that can be done to those organisations which make it easier because they're kind of more supported in their social network. These are the kids that don't have that. So something that strict would be alien. So we don't say you're going to, we say we encourage you. We encourage you not to swear. We encourage you to be on time, and we encourage you to work hard. Of course, if they don't and they disengage, then we do some educational PT to get them back in to the way of thinking. But it's not getting beasted or punishment. It's because it's making them feel better in general anyway.
So, and that program continues?
Yes, and so that was the beginning. And yes, we would like to push that out even further. We would like to do a VVS Elite, which for them we're looking at cadets. Maybe in my time they were called Venture Scouts. I'm sure they've got a different title now, like the eldest, when you're right at the end of your scouting type of thing, where we would like to bring on a course built on already their course skills, which would be look more enlightenment for recruitment for British intelligence or strong community leaders, built on how blue lights work, blue light handovers, and working with vulnerable members of the community. For instance, we have Blind Veterans UK in, so the kids, they learn to guide blind people, and they understand that if you've got a crowd scenario, there may be an accident, there may be a flood, something like that. Not everybody is the same. You have to, so mental health toolkit we give them, they know how to signpost, how to guide the blind, how to understand that some people can't hear properly, some people have mental health problems, and some people have old injuries, as well as all the haemorrhage control and the blue light handovers, phonetic alphabet, all that good stuff. But it's also the soft part of community they understand. So they become very good at stabilisation and de-escalation very quick.
You mentioned hemorrhage.
Yes.
And of course, this is something that we're backing you on. Veteran Forces is providing funding for a course that you're going to be rolling out over several months this year.
Yeah.
Could you talk just a little bit more about that in terms of what its objectives are, and how that will potentially be valuable for, shall we say, more in the civil community, the general community, and help build resilience? Really.
Absolutely. I think, resilience, we've all heard this word bouncing around now. Coming from the government foreseeable plan, it's such a big thing. You only have to turn the TV on or look at go to your emails and the news flashes up.
Yeah.
Resilience is a word that's needed in everything now. We have to start young so we build stronger foundations. So down the line, 10 years, 20 years, we'll be much more on top of it than we are now. Okay, haemorrhage control is the reason. The reason why haemorrhage control is in first is because it's the one most relatable to everybody. If you bleed and you bleed too much, you could die. If you bleed and you bleed a lot, you're going to be unwell. We need our blood, so it's important to know how to stabilise things, even from a cut to something that could be a puncturing wound, it could be more fatal. It's a quick qualification to be able to get where you're not then complicating first aid, first responder too far, where you're talking about air support, IVs, anything like that. We're talking about stopping bleeding. Yeah. So it's a transferable skill that's for every age group, really, that can understand. And I think then community responsibility comes the key factor here. And not only are we getting a veteran as a recognised name for introducing that, you're getting all different age groups together in one common thing, which is resilience. As I say, stop the bleed is a qualification. It's quick to get, and I think one that will spread quickly as an interest to a lot of people throughout the UK.
Okay, Gary, well, look, thank you very much for expanding on the work of Veterans Volunteer Service. There's so much we could go on talking all day about it, couldn't we, really?
Can I just say where we're looking at starting it, or, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So Stop the Bleed, predominantly we're going to be aiming for two places. One is Blind Veterans UK in Sussex, which we'll be looking at doing in May. We are adapting slightly for visually impaired as well. It'd be members, community, and we'll be inviting, like we say, the cadets, so it's like an add-on. Secondly, we'll be at the Royal Chelsea Hospital in London with some of the pensioners, and obviously some community outreach there as well. And I think this will be the beacon to send through veterans further throughout the land, and a good way to get them involved with Veteran Force and the VVS, and push them forward with a commonality that we can then build other initiatives on.
Gary, look, thanks for being with us this afternoon. Absolutely incredible story from beginning to end. And I think one of the significant points for us right now is what your organisation with Veteran Force is going to be bringing to societal resilience, which is not very good, as we all accept at the moment. It has to become stronger, much, much stronger. And, I salute your role. We salute your role.
Thank you, Alan. Here's to it.
In doing that. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.